Welcome to Zentara Unlocked, the official podcast of Zentara Blog. In today's podcast, we cover Top 10 Science Myths You Probably Still Believe. Science is all about exploring the world around us, testing ideas, and figuring out how things really work. It's an amazing journey of discovery. But sometimes, ideas that aren't quite true get passed around so much that they start to sound like facts. These are called myths or misconceptions. You've probably heard some of them, and you might even believe a few yourself. Don't worry, it happens to everyone. Our brains are wired to make sense of the world, and sometimes we latch on to simple explanations even if they aren't scientifically accurate. Think of science myths like whispers that travel down a long line of people. By the time they reach the end, they've changed a little or a lot from the original message. Debunking these myths isn't about making anyone feel silly. It's about learning the fascinating reality that science has uncovered. Often, the truth is even more interesting than the myth. Understanding common science myths helps us appreciate the careful work scientists do and encourages us to question things and seek out reliable information. In this article, we're going to look at 10 popular science misconceptions that many people still hold on to. We'll explore why they're not true and what the real science says. Get ready to challenge some things you might have heard your whole life and replace those myths with cool science facts versus myths. It's time to set the record straight and discover the amazing truth behind these widespread beliefs. 1. The 10% brain usage myth. Have you ever heard that humans only use about 10% of their brain? This is one of the most persistent common science myths out there. The idea is that if we could just unlock the other 90%, we'd suddenly become super geniuses with amazing mental powers. The reality, according to neuroscientists, is that we use pretty much all of our brain over the course of a day. Different parts of the brain are active during different activities. Some parts work when you're reading, others when you're talking, others when you're dreaming, and even more when you're just sitting still. Think of your brain like a team. Different players have different jobs, but during a game or a day, most players are involved at some point, even if they aren't all sprinting at the exact same second. Brain scans using technologies like fMRI show activity spread across the brain even during simple tasks. While we are constantly learning more about the brain, the myth that humans only use 10% of their brain is completely false. Our brains are incredibly complex and busy organs. 2. The Great Wall of China is visible from space. This is a classic myth often taught in schools. The idea is that the Great Wall of China is so huge that it's the only human-made structure visible from space with the naked eye. It sounds impressive, doesn't it? However, astronauts and scientists confirm that this isn't true. From low Earth orbit, where the International Space Station is, you can sometimes see major human-made features like highways, cities, and airports, but they look like faint lines or smudges. The Great Wall is relatively narrow and blends in with the surrounding landscape, making it very difficult, if not impossible, to spot reliably without aid. From the moon, it's definitely not visible. Think about trying to see a single brick wall from miles up in an airplane. It would be tiny. While an incredible feat of engineering, is the Great Wall of China visible from space? Not in the way the myth describes. It's a powerful image, but just one of many popular science misconceptions. 3. A penny dropped from a skyscraper is deadly. This myth suggests that if you drop a small object like a penny from a very tall building, like the Empire State Building, it will gain so much speed that it could seriously injure or even kill someone on the ground. This often pops up in discussions about gravity and falling objects. While gravity does make objects accelerate as they fall, air resistance plays a huge role, especially for small light objects like a penny. As the penny falls, the air pushes against it, slowing it down. Eventually, the force of air resistance balances the force of gravity, and the object stops accelerating. It reaches what's called terminal velocity. For a penny, terminal velocity is nowhere near fast enough to cause serious harm. It might sting a little if it hit you, but it wouldn't be like being hit by a bullet. So, the idea that dropping a penny from Empire State Building is deadly is just a myth. Another example of science facts versus myths where physics debunks a scary story. 4. Chameleons change color only for camouflage. Chameleons are famous for their amazing ability to change the color of their skin. The common belief is that they do this purely to blend in perfectly with their surroundings, becoming invisible predators or hiding from danger. While camouflage is a reason, it's not the only one, or even the primary one. Scientists have found that chameleons mostly change color to communicate or to regulate their temperature. Lighter colors can help them reflect heat and cool down, while darker colors absorb heat to warm up. They also change colors to express their mood, like anger, fear, or excitement, or to signal to other chameleons during mating rituals. Think of it like blushing when you're embarrassed or turning pale when you're scared. It's a physical reaction that signals something about how you feel. So, the chameleon changing color myth that it's just for blending in is incomplete. It's much more about communication and comfort than perfect invisibility. 5. Sugar makes kids hyperactive. Parents have been saying this for generations. Give a kid sugar and they'll bounce off the walls. It seems like a direct cause and effect. Eat candy, get hyper. This connection is so widely believed that it's become a classic common science myth. However, numerous scientific studies have looked into this, and the overwhelming conclusion is that sugar does not cause hyperactivity in children. While a sugar rush might sound logical, research hasn't found a consistent link. So, why does it seem like kids get hyper after eating sugary treats? It might be due to other factors, like the excitement of the event where they're getting sugar, like a birthday party, caffeine in, some treats like chocolate or soda, or even just the expectation that sugar should make them hyper. Parents and kids might unconsciously act that way. The sugar makes kids hyper myth is a persistent one, but it doesn't hold up to scientific scrutiny, demonstrating the difference between perceived effects and actual science facts versus myths. 6. We only have 5 senses. We're all taught about the 5 basic senses: sight, hearing, smell, taste, and touch. This list comes from the ancient Greek philosopher Aristotle, and it's a useful starting point. But the idea that these are the only ways we sense the world is a popular science misconception. In reality, humans have many more senses. Think about balance. That's controlled by your inner ear. What about proprioception, the sense of where your body parts are in space without looking? You also have senses for temperature, thermoception, pain, nociception, and the feeling of your internal organs, interoception. Some scientists even consider things like our sense of time or direction as separate senses. So, while sight, hearing, smell, taste, and touch are the most obvious, the notion that we have only 5 senses is definitely a myth. Our bodies are equipped with a much richer and more complex array of sensory abilities than you might initially realize. 7. The tongue map myth. You might have seen diagrams of a tongue with different areas colored and labeled for specific tastes: sweet at the tip, sour and salty on the sides, and bitter at the back. This tongue map is a widely believed science myth, suggesting that taste receptors are strictly segregated to certain zones. The truth is that all areas of the tongue containing taste buds can detect all 5 basic tastes: sweet, sour, salty, bitter, and umami, a savory taste. While some areas might be slightly more sensitive to certain tastes than others, the difference isn't significant enough to create distinct zones. The idea of the tongue map originated from a misinterpretation of research done over a century ago. Modern science has shown that taste perception is much more complex and distributed. So, the diagram showing different parts of tongue taste different things in specific areas is simply not accurate. 8. Lightning never strikes the same place twice. This is a common saying used to suggest that bad luck won't repeat itself. However, as a scientific fact, it's completely untrue and a classic science myth. Lightning is a discharge of electricity that seeks the path of least resistance to the ground. Tall, isolated objects are more likely to be struck because they are closer to the storm clouds. If a place is a good conductor and in a prime location for lightning strikes, like a tall building, a transmission tower, or even a tall tree in an open field, it is more likely, not less, to be struck multiple times. The top of the Empire State Building, for instance, gets hit by lightning many times every year. So, the idea that lightning never strikes same place twice myth is just a saying, not a scientific reality. Lightning will hit where the conditions are right, regardless of whether it's been struck before. 9. Cracking your knuckles causes arthritis. Here's a myth that your parents or grandparents might have warned you about. If you constantly crack your knuckles, you'll get arthritis when you're older. The popping sound might seem a little unsettling, leading to the belief that it's causing damage. However, scientific studies have shown that there is no link between cracking your knuckles and developing arthritis. The popping sound you hear is actually caused by gas bubbles in the synovial fluid, the liquid that lubricates your joints, collapsing rapidly. It's not the sound of bones rubbing together or cartilage wearing down. While there was one doctor who famously experimented on himself for decades and found no link, larger studies have also supported this conclusion. So, the myth that cracking knuckles causes arthritis is just that, a myth. While it might annoy people around you, it's not damaging your joints in a way that leads to arthritis. Disset. The 5-second rule is real. We've all probably used this one. If you drop food on the floor but pick it up within 5 seconds, it's still safe to eat because germs haven't had enough time to get on it. This is a popular and often convenient common science myth. Unfortunately, the truth is that bacteria can transfer to food instantly upon contact with a surface. The amount of bacteria transferred depends more on the type of surface. Carpet tends to transfer fewer bacteria than smooth surfaces like tile or wood. And the type of food, moist, sticky food, picks up bacteria more easily than on how long it stays on the floor. While a very quick pickup on a very clean surface might result in less contamination, there's no magic 5-second window that guarantees safety. So, while the 5-second rule might ease your conscience or make you chuckle, it's not a rule based on science facts versus myths. When food hits the floor, germs can and often do hop aboard immediately. It's fascinating how these science myths spread and stick around. Learning the truth behind them is part of the fun of exploring science. The real world, with all its complex processes and surprising facts, is much more amazing than these simple misconceptions. Keep questioning, keep exploring, and keep seeking out the real science. And that's a wrap for this episode of Zentara Unlocked. We hope you enjoyed it. But the journey doesn't end here. To see the visuals that accompany this discussion, read the full article at your own pace and discover our curated list of books for further reading, with links to easily find them. Head straight over to zentara.blog. That's Zentara.blog. While you're there, explore the other 5 new articles we published today. And check out our weekly ebooks compiling our most popular topics. Don't forget to subscribe to Zentara Unlocked so you don't miss any of our 6 daily episodes. Thanks for listening, and keep that curiosity alive.